the classroom here at Wellington High School. Welcome to another episode of Dialogue with the Dukes. Today's show is being brought to you by the Charmed Farmhouse, located at 126 West Herrick in downtown Wellington. We have a special guest today, Carole Klingler. She is the CEO of an organization called Life, and it's part of the Mind, Body, Spirit project within the Thrive episodes that we've been taping for the last several weeks, in fact all year here at Wellington High School. The organization that's known as Life, it's a dementia-friendly foundation. It is a Thrive partner, as we've already talked about, and it promotes that organization very heavily, that being Thrive. So Carole, welcome.
Thank you.
Obviously, the first question we have to ask is, you are in charge of something called memory cafes.
Correct.
What are memory cafes? What is it? Where is it located? The locations of all of them,
Okay.
and the fact that we have people that are attending that we assume have dementia, but it's just more than that. Talk about those things if you would.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for having me. We're really excited to be able to share more about what we do. So we offer what's called a memory cafe, and memory cafes kind of have a broad description depending on who's running them. But for our memory cafe, we offer 4 hours in one location weekly, and at those locations we bring in services that have been proven to be effective and supportive to people living with dementia and their caregiver. So at our locations, the caregivers do stay, or a responsible party. It could be a son, daughter, a neighbor even, but somebody that's responsible stays one-on-one. And we offer a lot of different activities that are engaging, that help the person with dementia to socialize and to just feel a part of a bigger project, I guess, and part of life, and they meet new friends. The caregivers gain caregiver support amongst each other. And then we bring in education and programs to support the caregiver as well.
Mm-hmm. The memory cafes, it kind of to me sounds more like a restaurant almost, but it's actually not. You mentioned the fact that each session is 4 hours long and it's weekly. But what are the qualifications of these people that are coming in? You mentioned the fact that it's a dementia-friendly program, and the fact that we have caregivers. Are there any qualifications involved with actually attending these weekly sessions?
Well, we do look at ourselves as a social model, so we ask for people to be able to get around independently with the support of their caregiver, to manage bathroom needs on their own, and not to have any special dietary restrictions, because all of our locations provide a lunch, and the lunches are donated, so we don't do any pureed foods or anything special. But the caregivers are able to help in any way they need to. We just don't do hands-on support. We operate more like a senior center would operate, only with a special focus. Our staff has special training and education on dementia and just ways to have successes, how to connect with somebody and make a point. One of the things that's just a simple thing is we try to really pay attention to the person with dementia, greet them first a lot of times. That can make a whole difference in their feeling of comfort. Mm-hmm. And then having that same location is also a comfort to a person with dementia. Before Life came into being, we had a lot of great services all over Lorraine County, but a lot of times the caregiver didn't know how long it was going to last, if they could bring their loved one. The person would come sometimes that had dementia, wasn't sure about the environment. It just became a barrier to getting people out and getting support that we know they need.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is a question that just came up in my mind, which we didn't discuss. Do you have, as being the CEO of Life, do you have any medical training in this area, or do you have experience in this area, or do you have doctors and so on that actually are advising you in all these memory cafes?
A little bit of all. So, actually, my background is I am a RN, BSN, and I did have training which was called validation therapy with Naomi File, and I've also been through the TIPA Snow program that she has. It's called a GEMS program of training about how to interact with people living with dementia. I worked in long-term care for most of my nursing career, and I saw that there were techniques and things that helped and worked and were supportive to people living with dementia, but a lot of times there wasn't a good opportunity to talk about those things. It was usually a crisis was occurring when you realized, oh, we could have done this differently.
Mhm.
So that was part of the desire, the calling basically, to offer better support in the community. On our board of directors, I do have a gerontologist and a neurologist, and both of them are very, very interested and active in supporting people living with dementia.
How many people are actually on the staff of Life?
We have 6 hired employees, but
Okay.
we have a multitude of volunteers. Most of our locations have 2 or 3 volunteers at minimum. Plus everybody has their one-on-one support, and then we have intermittent volunteers such as student activities. We have people in the community that'll come and do extra programs like music or art or something like that.
Now, is there any special requirements for these locations, which we'll talk about where they're located in a little bit, but is there any special requirement for these particular locations as far as facilities and things like that that are available to these people?
Well, what we ask for our locations, we want them, of course, to be accessible, handicap accessible, or ADA compliant and accessibility. We do ask them to have an area where we can serve lunch out of, to have like a kitchen. We try to have one level, we don't have stairs or anything
Sure.
that we have to deal with. And our space is donated, and then they usually give us space for storage, so we're very fortunate in that way, and all of our locations are in churches.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Talking again about the cafes themselves, what do they actually provide? Now, you talked a little bit about the fact that we have meals, but there's a myriad of things that are provided in these cafes, obviously depending on, they're 4 hours in length, I realize that, but there's a myriad of things that you actually provide in all of these memory cafes, if you could go through them.
That's a good question. So we provide exercise at all of our memory cafes. That's one of the main focuses, because
Okay.
exercise is so important for the person that has dementia. And it's also a time where our caregivers can step away if needed and be supporting one another, or go
Sure.
to an education program. We offer art projects. Sometimes we have art therapists. We've had art therapy students. We've done all kinds of music programs, including having music therapy, music students, pet therapy. And we've had a lot of intergenerational programs. Some of our locations have a preschool. We've had college and high school students. So we've had a lot of different student engagement type opportunities as well.
You mentioned something about pet therapy. I know that you have a therapy dog that comes in every so often. That's got to be very popular with the people.
Definitely. They definitely know when they're not there. And we have Lori King and Putter coming to our memory cafes, and they are very loved and welcomed. And it's just really nice to see, because the therapy dogs, they know who wants their attention and they know when to go, and it's really amazing to see people that maybe come in and don't really interact right away, and they'll see the dog and all of a sudden they're petting the dog and they're talking to the dog, and then that warms them up to talking to us.
Another thing that you provide are guest speakers.
Yes.
How are they receptive, the dementia patients? Are they receptive to guest speakers, or is it something that maybe they would go into I hate to say a fog, but a fog when somebody else just starts talking to them?
Our participants all seem interested, and we call them participants because we aren't doing a medical model, but they all seem interested in new people coming in, and I think what makes that happen is that we're in the same environment. So once they've come to know our environment and feel comfortable in that environment, I feel like we can introduce almost anything else, and there's an interest level. They might not be able to tell you what the topic was or ask questions about it, but just having the stimulation is really rewarding to them, and it's a positive.
Well, when we talk about memory cafes, as I said earlier, it almost sounds like a restaurant, but it's not really. Now, but people, I think, can understand people who might have been in a senior citizens residence situation, whether it be all caregiven or all on your own. Is there any kind of a situation, when you're explaining to people what a memory cafe is, do you bring in such things as, well, it's much like a senior citizen's home or something like that? How do you actually describe to the people that come in, the dementia patients or the caregivers, how do you actually describe the programs that are actually involved?
Usually I kind of talk about the day. So we start at 10 a.m. and we always open with a word of prayer and say something. Sometimes somebody brings in something positive to read, or we talk about something positive, and we go over kind of what's happening for the day. And we have coffee and refreshments, and after that, then we have an activity, which is either music or art usually, or an exercise program, which we usually try to do those most of the time before lunch. After lunch, people don't want to exercise. After lunch, you want to relax. And then after, we have lunch provided, so we have nursing homes and assisted livings that are sponsoring our lunches.
That's the word I tried to think of, assisted living.
Right, assisted livings. So we tell people it's sort of more like a senior center. Not really like a home or anything, but like a senior center where you would go with your husband or wife or parent or whatever and engage and have different things going on.
Well, when we come back after this message, we're going to talk specifically about the people that are actually involved, the volunteers and so on, and how these memory cafes actually work. This is Dialogue with the Dukes.
Say hello to Charmed Farms, one of Wellington, Ohio's small yet versatile small businesses. The Charmed Farmhouse is a wonderful establishment run by Miss Hudson. Charmed Farms is a small yet charming store that sells many kinds of decor and clothing. Charmed Farms is a charming store. That cannot be a coincidence, it's just too fitting to be one. This small business sells many kinds of wonderful decorations for every home. The store's atmosphere is a wonderfully cozy atmosphere. The smallest knickknacks and scents really feel like they do belong, especially in your own home. There is not a place where any decoration from the Charmed Farmhouse could be out of place, and they have been made to be put anywhere and still fit any theme.
We are back. We hope that if you want anything for your home, such as decor or things like that, we hope that you'll visit the Charmed Farmhouse, again located at 126 West Herrick in downtown Wellington. During the first portion of this episode, we've been talking with Carole Klingler about memory cafes and what they actually are, and they're not really a restaurant, although they do serve food, but what they actually are and who they serve and the people that are involved, not only the dementia people, the patients and so on, and I don't want to talk on patients, but the people with dementia and their caregivers. Now we want to talk more about who's actually involved in these memory cafes, and it's all volunteers, as I found out from you. They are all volunteers. The program itself is free, and we'll talk a little bit about the free association that is involved with the programs, but if you'll talk about who are the volunteers, how are they trained, where do you get them from, and so on.
So our volunteers, we have a variety of volunteers. First of all, I do want to mention, we do have, at each location, we do have one paid staff person, which is our service manager. And the service manager makes sure everything's running smooth, that they have the supports they need, that lunch shows up, you know, those types of things.
Sure.
They notify people how many are attending that morning and so on. The volunteers then, we've had some that have come, just walked in and heard about us. We've had some that have heard about us because of the church we're located in. And then we've had student engagement, as I mentioned, but what they learn depends on who they are. We offer an education at all of our churches when we first start. It's a half-day education that talks about the Memory Cafe as well as dementia friends and how to interact better with people living with dementia. And so they have that opportunity to go through a training in that sense. If we're working with the schools, as in Lorain County JVS, we work with allied health students. We actually go into the classroom and talk at the classroom before they come to us. And then the students, some of the things that they've done some remarkable things, just connecting with people. It's amazing to watch a person with dementia understand that they're helping somebody else, they're helping a student. And so it's a win-win because the student's gaining all kinds of information too, but a lot of times the student will get to know an individual and then do a legacy project. So we have them usually there for a period of 8 weeks, and at the end of the 8 weeks they'll create a legacy project, and it can be anything from like a shadow box of information about them, or a little booklet that they put together, a wreath, or one of them, we had a gentleman that really didn't talk very well, but if we asked him to say a prayer, he would pray beautifully. So they actually, the students on their own came up with the idea, they recorded him in 3 different sessions. One time he prayed for his family, another time for his church, and another time for his country. And they presented at the end this legacy project that for his family. So it's a beautiful time, and it's really fun to watch the students grow and learn about interacting with people who have dementia.
Well, I know that you have some very unique offerings that you provide in this particular situation. One of the things you talked about was improv comedy, validation training. If you could explain to the students and any adults that might be interested, what does that concern?
Well, it's really interesting. I had run across something a while ago where a person who was an improvisationalist, they did comedy and stuff. Their mother had developed Alzheimer's, and she started realizing a lot of the positive interaction she had with her mom was because of things she did through improv training. So she learned to always say yes, go with the flow, make the best of the situation, step into somebody else's world. You know, there was all these little things that she learned about. So I talked to the Mad Factory, and we were able to have them do this same type of training in North Ridgeville, one of our locations. And now this year Thrive is sponsoring another opportunity for us to do this in Wellington in the month of April. So we'll have 8 weeks where the caregiver and the participant will work together and learn about improv, and then I have some things that I'll talk just briefly with them about how it applies to caregiving. So it's broken into those 8 weeks.
And you also have validation training also, if you could speak about that.
Right. So validation therapy was founded by Naomi Feil, who was actually from Cleveland, which I think is fascinating. And she came up with this idea many years ago, like in the 60s. And I just found it so useful because it does teach you how to just work with that person that has dementia. So we all validate people all the time. Somebody walks in your office and shuts the door and just wants to vent, and we listen. We don't always have to agree with them, but we listen and we empathize and we step into their world for a minute. We might say things like, "That must be hard," or "How did you do it?" You know, even if we don't agree, we can address the feelings. And when we validate somebody, those emotions calm down. But when we don't pay attention to somebody who's venting, they get worse. You know, you don't care either, you're not listening to me, you know, they get frustrated. And so validation therapy teaches you how to talk to a person who has dementia and validate their feelings and step into their world and just kind of take a minute. It's really amazing to me to see the results of how it can, how the person responds back. And yet we do it all the time with other people. So.
Well, as we mentioned, these programs are completely free. There's no outlay of cash or anything like that. It's not like a senior citizen's home where you have to pay for that. This is all free. So if we say it's all free, where do you get your money from?
Well, we do get a lot of different people donate. We've had some grants. The Community Foundation has given us a few grants actually. We've done we do periodic fundraising. So one of them that we do is called Give 65, and it's with Home Instead. It's part of a national campaign. In the last few years, just by having individuals donate $10, we've had enough individuals that we won nationwide $10,000 extra dollars. So these little things like that have really helped us a lot. So we do things like that. We do have a February, we just completed a Loving Life, we called it, for the month of February, and our churches help support that. Where the different ones we're located. We're in 4 churches in Lorraine County. And we won an award in October of 2020 from the Manhattan Institute Civil Society Award, and that was another thing where we were nominated, and of 200 nominations we won a $25,000 award.
Wow.
So that was really a blessing. It kept us on the map for that time period.
Exactly. Well, now, yeah, put you on the map so at least people know about it. Well, we've come to that point in the program where we keep talking about these memory cafes. We know that they've got to be located somewhere.
Right.
We also know that there is one in Wellington. Where are all the memories cafes located, specifically here in Wellington?
So in Wellington, we're right around the corner at 108 West Street. We're inside New Life Assembly of God Church. And we're there every Monday from 10 to 2. On Tuesdays, we're in Vermilion, which is our first church we ever started in, and that's at Lakeview Baptist Church, and it's 591 Ferndale Avenue. On Wednesday, we're in Amherst at Faith Baptist Church, and that's at 440 North Lake Street, and that's the Oak Point Road exit. And that's on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, we're in North Ridgeville, which is our newest Lorain County location, and that's at Fields United Methodist Church at 34077 Lorain Road. We also have a location in Worcester, and it's in the First Presbyterian Church on College Street.
Mm-hmm. And you're trying to develop another one very soon.
This is right. So we will be starting a outreach for the Hispanic community. So we have a bilingual services director, and it's going to be Spanish speaking, of course, for the city of Lorain. So we're just coming up with our location. We've received funding, and we've got community supports in place. And hopefully we'll have something in the next couple of months to share about that.
That'd be nice. Well, the people that are watching this particular episode, Thrive is on the inner Google, and a lot of people watch this through the inner Google. So for people that are interested in maybe being a part of the Memory Cafe, specifically here in Wellington, but anywhere in those locations that you talked about, for those people, how do they contact you, either on the inner Google or through Thrive, or you yourself? How is the best way to get a hold of you if they would like to volunteer?
Well, they can go to our website as one opportunity, and there is an area where you can download a volunteer application, and that's at dflife.org, so DF for dementia friendly, life.org. They can also place a call to us at 440-935-3506, and that's just another way. Our address for mailing is P.O. Box 117, Oberlin, Ohio, 44074.
All right, now all of those things are on the green screen behind us, and that you're going to be providing, I hope,
Yes.
to our young videographers.
Yes.
Well, we once again like to thank Carole Klingler for coming in and talking about something that actually I learned about, I guess, through the old newspaper, the Enterprise, I believe. It used to be an Oberlin, Wellington situation, and they talked about these memory cafes that are opening up throughout the area, specifically the one here in Wellington. And that was how I learned about it first, but I'm sure that there are people that are interested not only from a medical point of view, but also from a volunteer point of view. And the fact that we have the Lorain County JVS specifically involved with your organization, and then anyone else that would like to volunteer, if you're interested in doing something like this, those are the places that you can contact Ms. Klingler at, and we can also hopefully get more volunteers, get more money, and so on. That would also be good also. Well, we will be back again, easy for me to say, very soon with another program with Thrive and the Mind Body Project. This has been Dialogue with the Dukes.